The gift no one expected. The room was too quiet for a celebration. Human soldier. Jack Turner stood at the edge of the grand alien hall, his arms crossed and jaw tight. He didn't like being there. Bright lights, loud music, strange foods. And aliens, hundreds of them. All watching him like he was an animal in a zoo. But he had saved their lives, hadn't he? That was why he was there. The Battle of Velkar Prime. Jack had stayed behind when everyone else ran. Fought off the enemy fleet. Alone. That was what earned him this honor. Being invited to the victory feast of the Zalari Empire. But he knew better. They didn't respect him. They just didn't know what else to do with him. Then the music stopped. A group of alien nobles entered, laughing. One of them dragged something behind him. A box. Metal, about the size of a coffin. It clanged as it hit the floor in front of Jack. The nobles smirked. A gift. One shouted, "My pre-human pet." Jack didn't move. He just stared at the box. It had vents, scratches, and something inside was breathing fast. The crowd leaned in. The noble hit a button. With a hiss, the box opened, and inside was a girl. She was small, thin, and curled into herself like a frightened animal. Pale purple skin, long silver hair, tangled and dirty. A collar on her neck. Her eyes squinted. Against the light then locked onto Jack's. She trembled. The nobles burst into laughter. She was meant for science, one said, waving a jeweled hand. Failed the tests, not worth keeping. But maybe you humans like broken toys. Another alien chuckled. You can do whatever you want with her. She won't fight. Jack didn't laugh. He didn't smile. He didn't even blink. He stepped forward. Slow, the girl flinched and shrank back into the corner of the box. Jack crouched. Are you hurt? He asked softly. The girl blinked. The room fell silent. No one's ever asked her that. One of the aliens whispered, confused. Jack reached out, not to grab her, but to offer his hand. She stared at it like it was a trick. Slowly. She touched his fingers. Her skin was ice cold. Jack stood and turned to the nobles. Where's her file? File. The alien leader frowned. Her medical file. History. You gave her to me. She's mine now, right? The room shifted. The mood had changed. This was not how the joke was supposed to go. She's not property, another noble said nervously. It was a joke. I don't joke with lives, Jack replied. You gave her to me. I'm taking her. He scooped her up in his arms gently. She didn't resist. She just shivered. Jack left the feast without another word. Back in his ship, Jack laid the girl on a soft blanket. She hadn't said a single word. Her eyes never stopped moving. Watching him, watching everything. He handed her water. She sipped it fast, afraid it would be taken away. He brought her food. She hesitated, but hunger won. She ate like she hadn't seen real food in days. Jack sat across from her, not too close, not threatening. After a long silence, he asked, Do you have a name? Her lips parted. It took her effort. Elira? He smiled softly. Nice to meet you, Lyra. I'm Jack. She looked at him for a long time, confused, suspicious. Then she whispered, You're not going to hurt me. Jack's face darkened. No, never. Tears filled her eyes. That night, Jack sat by the window of the ship, staring into space. Lyra was sleeping behind him, curled up like a child. He didn't know why the Empire wanted her thrown away. He didn't care. He only knew this. They gave her as a joke, but the joke was over. Now, she was his responsibility, and someone, somewhere, wasn't going to be happy about that. Outside the ship, small black drone floated in silence, hidden. In the dark, its camera zoomed in on the sleeping girl, recording her every breath. A message flashed across its screen. Subject Lyra, confirmed alive. Human has claimed her. Proceed with phase 2. She learns the human isn't like the others. Lyra woke with a cry. Her heart was racing. Her arms flew up to protect her head. She expected pain. Loud voices. Sharp tools, but there was nothing. Just soft blankets. And quiet. She opened one eye. Jack was there sitting beside her on the floor, not sleeping, just watching the stars through the window. She stared at him, confused. Why wasn't she back in the labs? Why hadn't he locked her up or tied her down? Why was her collar gone? He had removed it while she slept. No one had ever done that. Jack heard her breathing faster. He turned, gently. "It's okay," he said. "Just a bad dream." She blinked. He brought her water again. She reached for it but paused. Her hand shook. Jack noticed. "No one will take it from you," he said softly. "It's yours." She took it. This time, she didn't gulp it down. She sipped slowly. Jack leaned back against the wall. He didn't ask questions. Tate didn't push. Her just sat there like she mattered. Lyra studied him. His face was different from Zalari Male's, rough, but calm. His eyes were tired, but kind. Back in the lab, humans were called violent, dangerous, dirty, but this one had covered her with blankets. This one had spoken her name like it was something important. Later that day, Jack brought out a small screen. It glowed with simple pictures and words. He pointed at a square. "Food," he said. Then at another. "Water?" He looked at her. "Want to try?" Lyra stared, unsure. Then she slowly touched the water icon. The screen, DINGED. Jack stood and brought her a cup. Her eyes widened. "You learn fast." "Ah," he said, smiling. She smiled a little. "Ah, too. A small one." The first in her life. By the third day, Lyra could say full words. She pointed to things and asked what they were. Jack always answered, "Why are you kind?" She asked once, slowly. Jack blinked. "Because you deserve kindness." She didn't understand that. Not yet. That night, as Jack ran a scan on the ship's systems, he noticed something strange. A warning on the bio-sensors. The computer flagged Lyra's blood samples. It had scanned her when she first came on board. Standard safety protocol. But something was odd now. Her cells were changing, growing faster than normal, even adapting to human space conditions. Jack frowned and ran the test again. Same result. He stared at the data. "Lyra," he said gently, "did anyone ever test you in the labs?" She tensed up. Her smile vanished. "Yes," she said, voice flat. "Many times." "What for?" "They said I wasn't good enough. My blood was too strange. Too unstable." Jack leaned in. "Unstable how?" She looked down. "They said I had human code in me, that I was tainted." His heart skipped. Human code. She wasn't just alien. She had been made that way. Part alien, part human. That explained everything. The collar, the chains, the joke. They didn't see her as real, just a failed experiment. But Jack did. She was alive, and someone had made her this way on purpose. Outside, ship drifted into orbit. Small, black, silent inside it. 3 elite Zalari agents prepared their gear. They had watched long enough. The human had discovered too much. Now, it was time to recover the gift. Jack stared out the window again. Lyra was asleep once more, this time curled on the soft chair like a child. He had a feeling peace wouldn't last. Someone out there wanted her, not for who she was, but for what was inside her. Suddenly, alarms flashed red on the ship's control panel. Unauthorized scan detected, the computer warned. Jack jumped to his feet. "What? From where?" Coordinates popped up. A ship nearby. No ID, no signals. And heading straight for them. Jack grabbed his gear. He had fought in wars. He had seen death. But this was something else. Now he wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for her. Her DNA isn't normal and now they want her back. Jack didn't sleep that night. He sat in the pilot seat. Eyes locked on the dark screen. The enemy ship hadn't attacked yet, but it didn't move either. It just hovered nearby, silent, watching, like a hunter waiting for the prey to drop its guard. Inside the ship, Lyra slept. But even in rest, she curled tightly, arms wrapped around herself like she expected to be pulled away at any second. Jack tightened his fists. Whoever they weren't getting her back. At dawn, Jack moved quietly to the medbay console. He brought up Lyra's DNA scan again, still trying to make sense of what he'd seen. Her blood wasn't like anything he'd seen before. Not fully Zelari, not fully human. The markers inside her cells told a different story. She had hybrid code, not mixed by accident, but made on purpose. Genetic patches, accelerated growth triggers. Hidden sequences that looked dormant, but were slowly waking up. Jack ran it deeper. Scan.1 section lit up red. Warning, sequence unstable. Unknown mutation detected. He leaned closer. It wasn't just unstable, it was growing. What the hell are you, Lyra? He whispered behind him. A quiet voice spoke. I don't know. Jack spun around. Lyra stood at the doorway, hugging the edge of her blanket. Her eyes weren't scared anymore, just tired. She'd heard everything. You saw the scans? Asked softly. She nodded. I always felt different, she said. In the labs, they said I was a mistake. Think I wasn't born the right way. Jack shook his head. You're not a mistake. They made you this way. On purpose. Someone wanted you to be part human. But why? She asked. I don't know, Jack said honestly. But we're going to find out. Lyra hesitated. What if they want me back? Jack looked her straight in the eyes. They'll have to go through me. He started preparing the ship for a jump. But just as he was finishing the calculations, a voice came through the COMMs, cold, mechanical. Captain Jack Turner. Hand over the girl. Jack froze. The voice continued. You have something that doesn't belong to you. Jack turned the comms off. Nope, she doesn't belong to anyone. Lyra sat beside him, shaking. I recognize that voice, she whispered. He ran the tests. He told me my purpose. What purpose? She stared down. To carry something. Something they were afraid of. Jack knew they had to run. But before he could engage the engines, the enemy ship fired a pulse. Not a weapon. A signal. Jack's ship systems blinked. Then died. No. Lights, no power. They were dead in space. Jack cursed and ran to the backup panel. Come on, he muttered, trying to restart the systems manually behind him. Lyra gasped. Her hands glowed. Soft blue light pulsed from her fingers, and then click. The ship hummed to life. Jack turned, stunned. What did you just do? I don't know, she said. I just wanted to help. He looked at her, eyes wide. The energy. The mutation. She wasn't just hybrid. She was awakening outside. The enemy ship prepared to dock. Jack didn't wait. He slammed the engines to full power and spun. The ship hard. Bursting away into the asteroid field nearby. Lasers lit up the dark as they gave chase. Jack flew fast, weaving through the rocks like a ghost. Lyra sat, strapped beside him, her glowing hands gripping the seat. Can you do that thing again? He asked. I think. I need to touch something connected to the ship. Then get ready. He flew them into a deep crater where sensors would go blind. Now? He shouted. Lyra placed her hands on the core control. The ship vanished from enemy radar hours later, hiding in a cave inside a frozen moon. Jack checked the systems. Lyra's energy had done more than cloak them. It had repaired broken circuits, improved engine power, even upgraded shielding. "She's not just alive," Jack whispered. "She's the key to something bigger." But that also meant they would never stop hunting her. Far away, in the heart of the Zelari Empire, a tall figure stood. Before a round table, the other alien leaders watched him. "Status report?" one asked. "She's awake," the figure said. "The mutation has started. The human is protecting her." "Then we move to phase 3, said another. "Send the retrievers. The child cannot be allowed to form." The room fell silent. Not. One of them asked, why? They all feared what she might become. Back on the frozen moon, Jack handed Lyra a warm drink. She smiled just a little. "You saved us," he said. "No," she whispered. "You saved me first." He smiled, but inside, he was scared if this was only the beginning. What came next could change everything. Asterisk hunted across the stars. The cold wind howled outside the cave. Inside, the warmth of the ship kept Lyra alive, but Jack wasn't resting. He watched the scanner like a hawk. Any blip, any signal he'd be ready to run. They weren't safe. Not even close. The Zelari had found them once. They would find them again, and next time, they'd bring more than one ship. Jack knelt beside the small heater and checked the backup battery. It was dying fast. "We need fuel," he said quietly. "We can't hide here forever." Lyra nodded. Her skin had more color now. Her eyes were sharper, stronger. She looked different than she had just a week ago. More alive, more aware. "Where will we go?" she asked. Jack opened a star map. "There's a black market station a few jumps from here. It's hidden. No Empire patrols. We can get parts, maybe answers." Lyra looked worried. "What if they find us there too?" Jack smiled sadly. "Then we keep running." Hours later, the ship shook off the ice and lifted from the moon's surface. Lyra stood beside Jack in the cockpit, strapped in. Her hands still glowed faintly sometimes, even when she tried to hide it. Jack didn't comment. He didn't want her to feel like a weapon to him. She was still a person. The station came into view after 2 jumps. It looked like a dead satellite. Rusty, broken, forgotten. But Jack knew better. This place was alive, just hidden under layers of junk. As they docked, a voice came through the radio. "No Empire talk. No scans, no questions. You want trouble? Turn around." Jack replied, "Just looking to refuel." No trouble. The hatch opened. They stepped into the dark. Inside, the station was loud, crowded, and full of danger. Aliens of every shape and kind walked past, traders, thieves. Runners. Lyra held tightly to Jack's sleeve, her eyes wide. Everyone stared at her. Few had seen someone like her before. Jack kept his arm around her, protective top. They moved quickly through the market. He found a mechanic willing to trade fuel for old parts. Lyra sat quietly, watching 2 alien kids play with glowing stones. She smiled for a moment. It felt normal then. Then everything changed. A high-pitched alarm rang through the station. People froze. Empire beacon detected. Someone shouted. Panic spread. Jack grabbed Lyra's hand. "Run!" They bolted through the crowd. Behind them, metal. Doors slammed shut. Red lights flashed. Ships tried to undock. Chaos erupted. Through it all, a group of tall figures marched in black armor. Retrievers, the Empire's top hunters. Jack and Lyra ran through the maintenance tunnels. Lyra's heart pounded. Not from fear, but something else. Something burning inside her. Her hands sparked. Jack looked back. You okay? I I feel strange, she said. Like there's a voice in my head. Jack pulled her down behind an old generator. It sang. She clutched her head. It's not words, just a pull. Like something wants me to go to it. Jack gritted his teeth. It's a trap. They're using your blood to lure you. Then dash footsteps, heavy, slow, close. Jack drew. His blaster Lyra's hands began to glow brighter. The first retriever appeared, huge, covered in armor. Its voice boomed. Target acquired. Return the asset. Jack stood between them. She's not an asset. She's someone. The retriever raised its weapon, but before it could fire, Lyra stepped forward. Her eyes glowed. Her body lit up with blue light. She raised her hand, and the retriever froze. Sparks flew from its helmet. Its gun dropped. Lyra's voice was calm, cold. No more chains. She waved her hand. The retriever collapsed, dead. The others came, but they didn't get close. Lyra didn't move. She just stared, and the lights around her flickered like stars. Jack pulled her close. We have to go now. Back on the ship. They launched fast. The black market station shrank behind them. Lyra collapsed into the seat, breathing hard. Jack looked at her. You okay? She nodded. I didn't mean to kill it. I just wanted it to stop. He placed a hand on hers. You did what you had to, but it felt too easy, she whispered. Like it wasn't the first time. Jack didn't answer. He didn't know how, far away. The Empire watched the footage from the fallen retriever. One word echoed across every command post. Awakened. A new order was issued. Do not destroy the hybrid. She is carrying the next phase. The room fell silent. She was not just hunted, she was now needed. The pregnancy revelation Jack noticed at first. Lyra had been sleeping more, eating less. Her glow had dimmed, and her skin looked pale again. He didn't say anything at first. Maybe she was just tired. After all, they had been running for days. From frozen moons to outlaw stations, always one step ahead of the Empire. But when she fainted in the corridor of the ship, his heart dropped. He caught her before she hit the floor. Lyra. Stay with meal, Katni. Her eyes fluttered. She tried to speak, but couldn't form the words. Something wasn't right. Jack carried her to the medbay. Fast. He laid her down and activated the auto-dash scanner. The machine hummed quietly. Then, it stopped. Jack looked at the screen. His breath caught. Life detected. Vital signs stable. Secondary life form present. He blinked. Secondary. The display showed 2 heartbeats. Not one 2-to-1 was hers. The other, much smaller. Much newer. Jack stared in silence. His hands shook. Lyra woke up slowly, her body weak, but her mind alert. She saw the worry in Jack's eyes before he said a word. What happened? She whispered. Jack knelt beside her, unsure how to begin. The scan showed something. He said quietly, You're not sick. He took a breath. You're pregnant. Lyra froze. The word didn't make sense at first. She had never even thought it was possible. Not after everything she'd been through in those labs. Not after what they said about her being broken. Incomplete. I can't be, she whispered. They told me I couldn't. I wasn't real. Jack shook his head. You're more real than anything I've ever seen. Her hands covered her stomach. Her fingers trembled. How? She asked. Jack didn't answer. They both knew the truth. It had to be him, sometime during the long, quiet days together, when she began to feel safe. When they stopped running, just for a moment, and started to feel something more. It happened, and now everything was different. The child wasn't just a baby, it was a miracle. A mix of species that were never meant to create life together. and in the wrong hands proof of something the Empire would kill to hide. Lyra sat up slowly, eyes wide with fear. "They'll come for me." Jack nodded. "And for the child." "But why?" He looked at the scan again. "'Cause whatever's growing inside you, it's not just alive, it's strong. Stronger than anything they've seen." He turned. The screen to her, her unborn child's cells were glowing just like hers. Elsewhere, deep in the Zellery Empire, the council gathered. The old leaders sat in silence as the newest report played. Hybrid subject has conceived. Human DNA is active. The child is stable. Power signatures are unknown. Possibility of second evolution confirmed. One leader stood. "This must not continue." Another spoke. "If the child is born, the bloodlines will no longer matter. We will lose control." The Emperor finally spoke. "Send the Dreadcast." The others gasped. The Dreadcast one asked, "But they only awaken during war." "This is war," the Emperor said. "One life against an empire." Back aboard Jack's ship, Lyra stood in the medbay. Looking at her reflection, she touched her stomach. For the first time in her life, something inside her didn't feel broken. It felt warm. It felt alive. Jack stood in the doorway, watching. "Won't let anything happen to you," he said. "To either of you?" Lyra turned. "I don't want to run anymore." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Then what do you want?" She looked out the window into the stars. "I want to fight." They made a plan. Jack reached out to an old contact, someone who once defected from the Empire. A scientist who used to work on hybrid programs before disappearing into exile. Her name was Dr. Marin. If anyone knew what was truly happening inside Lyra, it was her. The route to her was dangerous. Empire-controlled space. But Jack didn't care. Lyra didn't either. They had no choice. As the ship powered up, Lyra placed a hand on the wall. A gentle blue pulse flowed through the circuits. The child inside her responded. Jack felt the hum. The change. The ship almost seemed to breathe. "You're changing things," he said softly. Lyra smiled. "Not just me," she whispered. "We are." Above them, in the shadows of the galaxy, 5 black ships began to move. No flags, no signals, only one order: retrieve the mother, secure the child, eliminate the human. They were no longer just being hunted. They were being targeted for extinction. Asterisk, the Empire cracks the news spread. Like wildfire, not across public channels, not in markets or streets, but through whispers, through coded messages, through the places powerful people feared to look. The hybrid girl is pregnant. The child is alive. The father is human. And just like that, the Zellery Empire, strong for 1,000 years, began to shake inside a dark council chamber. 12 High Lords stood before the Emperor. Their voices echoed across the gold walls, sharp and angry. "This child cannot be allowed to live," one snarled. "It breaks every law we've held for generations," another spat. A half-human air. "Do you want civil war?" The Emperor sat silent, then raised a hand. They all quieted. She was a joke. "A failure. A gift to amuse a man," the Emperor said coldly. "Now she threatens everything." One of the younger lords dared to speak. "Then perhaps the problem is not the child, but the fear we built around it." Gasps filled the room. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "You forget yourself." "No," the young lord said. "You forget the people. They already whisper. Not of rebellion, but of hope. Hope in the hybrid. Hope in a future not ruled by you." The Emperor stood. "Then let me remind them what fear truly looks like." Back on Jack's ship, Lyra sat quietly near the main screen. Her hand rested over her stomach. where life continued to grow, small but strong. She felt different, not just tired or emotional. She felt connected to something larger, like her child was already reaching outward, touching more than just her. The stars no longer felt empty. They felt alive. Jack stood beside her, watching the latest scans. He didn't say much these days. He didn't have to. Their silence was comfortable now, but both knew it wouldn't last. Suddenly, the ship's alert blared. An emergency channel lit up. A face appeared, a human, a general, someone Jack hadn't seen since the Battle of Velkar Prime. "Turner," the general said, voice firm. "You need to listen." Jack narrowed his eyes. "Go on. There is unrest inside the Empire. Civil cracks are forming. A faction wants to protect the hybrid. They're calling themselves the Starborn Circle." Lyra leaned forward. "Whew. Are they? Scientists, exiled nobles, even a few military defectors. They believe the child is proof that the future can be peaceful, shared." Jack's eyes hardened. "And the others? Still loyal to the old blood they've sent? Dread caste assassins. If they find you, they won't ask questions." Lyra swallowed. "So what do we do?" The general replied, "You need to go public." Jack blinked. "What?" "Show the galaxy. Show the child. Show what the Empire is trying to bury. If you stay hidden, they'll twist the story. But if you come forward, others will rise." Jack turned off the screen. He looked at Lyra. She looked back. "I'm tired of hiding," she said. "Then let's make them see." They traveled to a neutral system, an old communications relay still used by frontier colonies. From there, they could reach thousands of sectors in seconds. But the moment they arrived, 5 black ships uncloaked the dread caste. They were waiting. Jack pushed the ship hard. "Hang on." The chase began. Blasts rocked the hull. Shields dropped to 30%. Lyra gripped the armrest. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever. "I can feel them. They don't want the child. They want to erase the idea of the child." Jack dodged a missile. "Then let's give them something they can't erase." He punched in the transmission code. A bright red button blinked. "Lyra," he said, "you ready?" She nodded and pressed it. Across the stars, screens lit up in warships, trade stations, cities. At home's billions saw her face. Not weak, not broken, but proud. She stood with her hand on her stomach, eyes fierce. "My name is Lyra," she said. "They gave me to a human as a joke. But that joke is now carrying life." Jack appeared beside her. "This isn't about war. This is about change. If you hear this, you have a choice. Hide in the past, or step into the future with us." The message spread. Some laughed, some wept. But many believed in the Empire. Riots broke out in border cities. Soldiers refused orders. Ships left posts. The young lord from before stood on a balcony, holding up a screen. "Look," he shouted. "They fear a child because they know it is stronger than all their rules." The Empire cracked, not from war, but from truth. Back in space, Jack's ship was hit hard. They spun out, crashing into a small moon. Systems failed. Jack dragged Lyra from the wreckage. Both limping above, the dread caste descended. Lyra looked up. "This is it, isn't it?" Jack raised his blaster. "Not if we stand." Lyra closed her eyes. The child inside her pulsed. Power surged from her body, blue, bright, endless. The sky above cracked like glass, and the Empire finally saw what it had tried to bury: a new beginning. The baby, the battle, and the beginning of change. The wind howled across the rocky surface of the moon. Lyra's breath was shallow, her steps unsteady. Jack held her up with one arm, limping through the cold ash and broken ground. The crashed ship lay behind them, a smoking ruin dot above. The black dreadcast dropships slowly descended like vultures. Their engines hummed like death. Jack glanced at the sky. They had maybe minutes. "Keep walking," he whispered. "We'll find cover." But Lyra shook her head. Her hands were glowing again. This time, not just her skin, but her whole body. "Jack," she said, gripping his shirt. "It's time." Jack turned to her, confused. "Time for what?" She looked up at him, eyes full of tears and light. "The baby's coming." The dreadcast soldiers formed a wide circle as they landed. Heavily armored. No faces, no mercy. They moved forward in silence. Their commander raised one hand, giving a single order. "End it." Jack found a cave just barely big enough for them to crawl into. He laid her down on a blanket torn from the ship. His hands trembled. He'd fought wars. He'd seen men die. But this bringing life into the world was something he never trained for. "I'm here," he whispered, holding her hand. "I've got you." Lyra screamed. Energy burst from her body in waves. The rocks around them glowed, cracked her body. Wasn't just changing it, was becoming something new. "Something's inside me," she gasped. "It's not just the baby, it's power." "Knowledge? I don't understand it." Jack held her tighter. "You don't have to. Just breathe. One more push. Come on." She screamed again, then it happened. A cry. Small dot, clear dot, a live dot. Jack looked down. Stunned, in his arms was a tiny child skin glowing faint blue, with bright silver eyes blinking. Up at him. "She's beautiful," he whispered. Lyra smiled weakly. "She's more than that." Outside, the dreadcast moved toward the cave entrance. They scanned the rock wall. Heartbeat detected. To adult signatures, one new life form. They began charging their weapons inside. The baby cried louder. The cry echoed through the cave. Through. The rocks dot through the air, through the sky, and the world changed. A bright beam of blue light burst out from the cave, splitting the ground open like thunder. The dreadcast were thrown back. One of them screamed, not in pain, but in fear. They tried to fire, but their weapons melted in their hands. Their armor cracked, and then the light took shape, a shield, a storm. The baby's eyes were open, glowing, not afraid. Watching Jack stood at the mouth of the cave, holding Lyra's hand in his other arm. Their child, Lyra, stood beside him, strength returning with every breath. The dreadcast froze. The commander stepped forward. "You are not permitted to exist." Lyra stepped past Jack, her body shining with the same power as her child. Her voice was strong. "And yet, here we are." She raised one hand. The commander collapsed, not dead, but broken. His armor fell off in pieces, not by force, but by truth. The hybrid power rejected all lies, all fear. The soldiers dropped their weapons and ran. Elsewhere in the Empire, the signal burst through blocked channels, every screen, every sky. The footage of the baby's birth, the energy, the power, the mercy, and the message. We are not the end. We are the beginning. The Empire fell within weeks, not from war, not from blood, but from the idea that something stronger and kinder could rise. Borders collapsed. Old laws were torn up. Zealotry soldiers laid down their arms. Human envoys arrived not as conquerors but as equals. Lyra became a symbol. Jack became a protector. And the child, now known across galaxies as Starborn, was called the hope of a new era. Years later, in a green field on a peaceful planet, Jack sat under a tree. The child, now walking and laughing, ran circles around him. Lyra joined them, a smile on her face, holding a flower the child had picked. Remember, she said softly, how they once said I was just a joke. Jack laughed. That joke changed the galaxy. She kissed his cheek. The child reached up and touched both their hands. The sky above shimmered with light. Peace had come. Not because one race won, but because one small life proved they didn't have to fight anymore. Not when they could build something better together.